we love waking up to just absolute snowball behavior.
Getting our asses kicked back and forth by everything in life.
It
Beautiful.
it never ends.
No. What a downer way to start this episode.
Right?
That's
Welcome back.
fucking abysmal. We'll fix that.
You know, this is gonna be one of those episodes, I think. This is gonna be purely reflective of how we're doing right now.
I mean, actually, now that I think about the topic, it's like a mirror.
Yeah. Also, we have to be on our best behavior today because this is our first episode with an editor.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we should probably make it very kind of
Yes.
them to want to help us.
Yes,
Um,
everyone say hi to Kaylee. Kaylee is our new editor for the Keto Cafe.
Hi, Bailey.
Very happy to bring Kaylee aboard. Very grateful for Kaylee. This is going to be a fun adventure and something that we will definitely be getting used to.
I have to focus on like completing thoughts in my head before they come out because like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just the long pauses, they're not
like
cute. You
staring
gotta,
into the camera.
yeah, the don't cut these though, because these are funny. These are common.
These
But
are funny. These are self-reflective commentary. But anyways, yes, thank you to Kaylee. Welcome to Kaylee. We love Kaylee on the Kino Cafe.
can I say a random take about cancel culture that I've been thinking about?
Sure.
Just because like Jerry Seinfeld is on that tour for that just absolutely garbage
Mm,
Pop-Tarts movie.
yes,
Um, Everything that comes out of his mouth is just like the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard.
I
Like,
have I like nothing can even prepare me to wrap my head around just how stupid this man is acting right now.
yeah, he's gonna throw away 30 years of like a comedy legacy that everybody has been like I don't know. It's just he said something about cancel culture and it was just dumb and it pissed me off and it kind of brought me to the realization that like if you're just not outwardly mean to people and outwardly like trying to hurt someone, you don't have to worry about it.
To me, he's acting like a man baby in the worst possible way. That
Yeah.
was that was my phone, my bad. Um, yeah, he's just acting like a man child. And I saw a video of there were disruptors in his audience, pro-Palestine disruptors, and I mean, they were bringing his show down, and it was awesome to see. And they were getting booed and they were getting shushed out. And the stuff that he was like saying in response wasn't even like acknowledging what he was doing. It was not only belittling them, but he was actively like trying to get the crowd to turn on these people and incite them to do like violent things to them. Like the video shows a guy like choking him out, and he was
Trying to
like,
get him
"Yeah,
out, but
man."
yeah.
Yeah, it's I was like so disappointed. And then his whole takes on even the industry right now, which is saying things like, "Oh, people don't watch movies anymore because they don't like movies. They like TV shows." And I'm like, maybe the general population watches a lot of Netflix, but you could encourage the sway to the other direction. You could
Yeah.
champion a studio not putting a film on digital 2 weeks after its theatrical release. He's just succumbing, and he said something terrible about AI too. Him and Reese Witherspoon were like almost championing AI, saying, "Well, we gotta adapt with it, and it's gonna be part of our lives." Ugh, I just,
He just has the most old man being told what he should think
yeah,
takes of all time. Also, he's just not funny.
no,
He just I don't know. It bums me out, and he does have a very large platform, and I was kind of glad to see people like either annoying or ignoring or clowning him
yeah,
whenever he said something kind of like abysmal. But
yeah.
still,
I've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm from start to finish, so I'm in towards the end of season 3 right now. And not only is it one of the funniest things I've ever seen, it's amazing to me just how much that show is essentially Seinfeld. And I'm realizing that growing up, I thought Seinfeld was Jerry Seinfeld, and he owned that role and everything, but it's really just Larry David.
Yeah.
The show is entirely like Larry's voice is so clear in that show, and it just makes me feel like so good knowing that Seinfeld was not the funniest part of Seinfeld, that it was actually just Larry David with, Seinfeld impersonating him basically.
Honestly, one of my favorite arguments is that Jerry Seinfeld might be the worst part of Seinfeld.
Mhm.
He doesn't do anything. He doesn't have the best storylines. He doesn't have the best jokes. He's not the most interesting character. I don't know. He can't compete with Larry David either.
Mhm.
I just he's very milk toast when you really try to boil it down, and he boosts a lot of that show is him kind of standing on the shoulders of, like you said, Larry David.
Mhm.
Everybody else's characters and their acting, like every scene he has with George Costanza, nobody remembers what he says because it's not.
Always George, yeah.
Yeah, it's George. His isn't important. It's not funny. It's
Yeah.
just a setup for George's joke.
I had a
My
bad dream, actually completely unrelated, but also kind of
Yeah.
not. I had a bad dream that Matthew Lillard was like a pedophile. And
Oh,
it like
and
came
like
out
the
of
news came
nowhere.
out.
Yeah, like I woke up and there was all of the news that he like had all these accusations of minors, and I was like my whole world just crumbled. I was so devastated. That was my bad dream. And then I woke up and I looked up Matthew Lillard and I was like, okay, we're good. Whew.
I would be gutted. There's no way. Not Shaggy.
Not Shaggy.
Not Shaggy.
Speaking of pedophiles,
Oh,
it's a great transition element.
is it?
Kevin Spacey, they want to put him back to work.
I'm sorry, Kaylee. They do. Well, I don't even know if they want to put him back to work. I think he's just like on his hands and knees begging
Yeah.
for a job. And I saw something where he said he wanted to like prove like not only that I can do a wonderful job and that I'm a great actor, but I want to prove my character. And it's like I don't. I think he's way too late.
Yeah. Well,
I
he
think
doubled down on it all with
he
those
doubled
House of
down.
Cards videos. Like every year he would
Oh
release
yeah.
a
He
video and he would basically like, I'm not wrong.
not only that, but like he just took the stance of like criminal. Like he like I don't know how else to put it. Like he took the stance of criminal. I don't really think
Yeah.
he should be allowed that kind of status or that power or that ability anymore because and what really bummed me out was seeing Liam Neeson be like he's one of our best, we should give him another shot because it's like we were already working on forgiving you, Liam, for something you said on a podcast that was actually like disgusting,
Yeah.
and then you had to like I could feel the Phantom Menace re-release box office just kind of like drop like ten
The
thousand dollars.
disturbance in the force.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Kevin Spacey thing, because the big argument when it all even came out in the first place was we need to separate the art from the artist. And that's an interesting standpoint because I do agree to some extent, kind of like the Kramer thing. Like you should be able to watch Seinfeld and remove the fact that Jerry Seinfeld is a terrible person, that Kramer did terrible things, but and you should be able to watch that show and enjoy it for what it is, for why it was created. But then there also comes a point when, with the Kevin Spacey thing, like I have a hard time watching his movies now because of just knowing how disgusting he is, and same with Bryan Singer.
Yeah.
But then you have the real world element where all of these actors that you watch in your favorite movies and you respect for their work are coming out of the woodwork to basically back this disgusting guy in real life. It's not like they're coming out and saying he had a great career, we should respect his career. They're saying we should respect his character because he's reformed now. I'm like, I don't think it works that way. It's not like he robbed a bank.
Yeah.
He
It's
destroyed
something that
lives.
and I think the other thing too is that like no one's gonna be comfortable on a set with him. I I guarantee because I feel like even on the set he was just on some Italian film. Some Italian director seemed like he was trying to pull a big stunt, wanted to make his name known, so he hired, the horrible sex criminal. And apparently like it was just awkward and creepy and no one really wanted to be around him. And I don't blame anyone for that. because I don't think these are just rumors. A lot of these were taken to multiple courts with enough damning evidence. A lot of them weren't even thrown out for like good reasoning.
Yeah.
You know, they a lot of them were actually suspicious. Like one of his victims died, and then he decided to make a, a a video as a character of his in a supervillain fashion
Right.
and respond.
I remember that.
And I don't. I think that's enough to speak on his character.
Mhm.
He's a grown man. If he's reformed, I don't think his actions can be forgiven like that.
Right.
Um, Especially because, like you said, he doubled down on it and he was weird and he was not remorseful.
Mhm.
Even there was no shred of that. All he wants is to be famous again.
Yeah.
Art from artist is one thing, but I think some people forget too that like to make new movies, he has to be on a set with a bunch of people,
Yeah.
and all of those people have to be comfortable with him and forgive him.
Which
And
is
he
something I don't think will ever happen.
no. And the very disturbing thing too is that like there's now too high of a chance that like during filming or after filming something happens and they gave him a chance and he did it again.
Mhm.
And that's horrendous. Because then I wouldn't say us because like we don't seem to want this. Not to speak for you, but like we don't seem to want
Yeah.
this. Everybody that's vouching for him though, they're then responsible for that happening.
True. And also, I don't think anyone in this world, especially in this, even the micro niche film circle world, is begging for another Kevin Spacey movie. It's not like we're like, we
Yeah.
need him back, guys. Like, his comeback will be crazy. It's like he was one of our best living actors for about 10 years. He had some insane roles, some amazing films. Good run, man. Good job. You're done. There's no
See,
more.
that's the thing I think people forget too is that like he wasn't great
Mhm.
when he got canceled.
Yeah.
All the Money in the World wasn't a good movie. He wasn't going to lose an Oscar. It was
Yeah.
like what else was he in? Billionaire Boys Club, the Baby Driver, arguably the only
He's like
like
he's just in that movie though.
he is. He's not even the best. He's just like somebody like it's just kind of like throwing something extra in there.
Yeah. It's
Like
like
he,
Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer technically made one good movie
yeah,
because he didn't direct X2 and he didn't direct Days of Future Past. I know he had other movies in his career that were decent, but The Usual Suspects is obviously, man, I just realized Usual Suspects, double whammy. Bryan Singer, Kevin Spacey. That's horrible.
oh god,
That's atrocious.
yeah, that's not
Sucks
great.
that it's such a good movie too, but I really attribute that to like the writing and the editing.
Yeah,
Um,
they could remake that. I think
they
I'd be
could
okay with that.
remake it with the entire Ocean's 11 cast.
You know what? Actually, that'd be a perfect Ocean's 14.
Steven
Like they're pulling a
Soderbergh.
heist while they're
Mhm.
trying to figure out. Like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Spacey, I don't need him back. I'm good. Sharon Stone, you can have him.
Sharon Stone spoke out for him too.
I think she was one of the first. I may have to be fact checked on this. I could be spreading vile rumors right now.
Well,
That's a
this is
great
gonna,
start.
this is gonna be the darkest episode I think we have made so far.
This is the Spider-Man 3 of the Kino Cafe
I
episodes.
was gonna say this is like our Empire Strikes Back. Like all hope is lost. The heroes are just they're having the shit kicked out of them. Nothing's going right for them.
It's been a crazy week for news, man.
Yeah.
It's been terrible.
Also, we're not a political podcast, but like the Iranian president just died in a helicopter crash, and it took a day for them to like something's in the air. It has to be because it's
Something,
just
well,
something's
yeah,
off.
yeah, there is a lot in the air. There's a lot going
Yeah.
on right now.
But Planet of the Apes is out.
Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes.
I'm seeing Challengers tomorrow.
Challengers.
Challengers.
Rachel Ziegler tweeted at you.
That's right. Rachel Ziegler noticed me. I shouldn't do that.
What?
I made like the Riz face, the
Oh,
dream
were you?
the DreamWorks eyebrow.
I can't. I don't
I
know if I.
can't do it. It's my brother can do it.
I can't because of the scar here. I don't think. Because if I lift this one up, it just looks. No, that I could never be The Rock. I would look too concerned all the time. Just like
Yeah.
I can smell what you're cooking, and it's fucked up. Stop doing that. Did we get that?
What did you get? What happened?
The door just opened itself.
Is this a paid promotion for The Strangers Chapter 1?
With that being said, Madeline Pesh stars as I don't know actually because I don't want to see that movie. That looks like garbage. Can I go close that and
Yeah.
exorcist? Like kind of give it an exorcism real quick.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
That works. I think you did it.
That happens again. I'm running out of my house like Scooby Doo.
Just like feet not touching the ground.
Eyes popping out of my head. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your
It
story.
becomes
That
a
scared the.
U-shaped hole in the door. You pew!
I need the Warrens. My favorite. I saw a video and it was like moving the Annabelle doll and they had like a priest and they had this guy that was doing it and he was like crying because he was so scared. And then he's like, it twitched. And somebody's like, no, you're just shaking. And it's like, yeah, they probably like, how much you want to bet that like the old Annabelle doll like got dirty? So they're just like, ah, fuck, buy a new one.
Yeah.
Need to keep it going. Like
Honestly,
eBay.
there's the story that this guy mocked the Annabelle doll,
Yeah,
like, and then he died in a car crash on the way home from the museum. But it
probably
turned
because he was
out,
laughing at it.
well, yeah, he's laughing, but I don't know. I don't believe it goes that far. I believe in a couple bumps in the night. I don't believe that a doll can just make you die. I think that was just an unfortunate accident.
How do you feel about switching from bad movies to ghost stories for the main topic when we get there?
Honestly, considering recent events, as in 5 minutes ago, I'm okay. Okay, dude. We definitely got that now.
Oh God, what do I um hold on, I have an idea.
Paranormal activity.
Just for the sake of it not being annoying, that should stop it. Actually, that too.
Nice.
Sorry for the interruption.
Look at that. That was like a paranormal activity scene.
Yeah, just tying shit together so the ghost can't interrupt my day.
Okay, so we're talking about ghost stories.
Mhm.
Hell yeah, brother.
Uh, let me write a new list. We might have to come up with this on the spot a little more, which I think is fine. We're like a vast knowledge of everything going wrong in the world
Yeah.
and any sort of movies, so I think we'll be all right.
Give me shitty celebrities for 500.
Woody Allen.
Oh God. Or every celebrity that I love that signed the Polanski petition.
Oh God, that was all of them. That was all of them, and I
Knowing
don't know.
Wes Anderson signed that ruined my week.
David Lynch signed it.
Disgusting. So ghost stories.
Yeah, ghost stories.
So your house is haunted,
Yeah, apparently.
and we want to talk about ghost stories.
Um,
I like this shift in gears.
I'm a fan of it. I always love ghost stories. They're kind of I think hauntings, possessions, ghosts, stuff like that's kind of my favorite horror.
Hmm.
As long as it's done right.
Yeah.
Uh, I love Insidious. I don't like how they eventually like show the demon.
Yeah.
Too goofy, not as scary. Like, but when you can't see something and you don't know what the rules are for a ghost story, like a haunted house movie or anything like that, because like they vary so much, especially the ones based on true stories, where like they're not consistent. They're not all the
Yeah.
same. Um, do you have any off the top of your head that you can think of that
Oof. Poltergeist. Poltergeist is great. The,
incredible?
the original, not the remake. Um, Gosh, there's so many. I remember that was pretty much exclusively what I watched as a kid because I wasn't super into slashers until I was in late high school. I would say, like besides Halloween and the old ones, but I really liked supernatural movies because the jump scare elements kind of felt safer in the sense that there was no lasting like impact on whoever whatever you're watching. Usually if a jump scare happens with a ghost, like goes away or the person just immediately dies or something and you never see them again. Yeah, so not necessarily scary, but I did like the others. The others is really good.
Hmm.
Nicole Kidman. Um Stir of Echoes is really interesting. It's not quite a ghost movie. Kevin Bacon's in it, but it's he can get in touch with like alternate realities and he can see the undead through these different realities and it's really cool. And he starts kind of going down a dangerous path of towing between realities and the
Yeah.
ghosts start kind of pouring through. Those are the three that had a pretty lasting impact on me besides Insidious and The Conjuring as the obvious winners there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Poltergeist really kind of fucked me up.
I think I saw Poltergeist too late, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, I think I was too old. I found it more like entertaining and fun than I
Yeah,
ever really did scary. I was just more interested in like what was gonna happen to the family.
right.
And then like when the twist hits, I'm like every time that twist gets me every time, which
Yeah.
I like adore, and I love the fact that it still works on me. Um,
There's the one scene where the guy like peels his face off in the bathroom.
yeah,
It's pretty gnarly, surprisingly. I just remember the image of the one ghost with the long legs, like the doorway ghost.
oh yeah,
I remember seeing that picture in an ILM book that they had at the library
yeah,
because it showed how they got that shot, which was basically this giant like puppet submerged in a tub of water, tub like a giant
that's
tank
really
of
cool. Like
water.
it,
And so that's how they got like the hair to flow up and everything. And then they used compositing to put that in the final frame. And I remember turning the page to that image because
yeah,
it's a splash page of that monster, and I freaked out. For me, it was that. For my brother, it was the melting face from Indiana Jones. That was on a splash page, and it freaked us both out. Um, but the Poltergeist one stuck with me. So I remember when I saw it for the first time, I was just on on edge because I did not
yeah.
want to see it.
Spielberg's a very sick and twisted
Yeah,
dude. For someone who's made things like The Terminal and the BFG, no.
yeah,
I I'd argue too in Ready Player One when he recreates the bathroom scene from The
The
Shining,
Shining. Yeah,
his version's a little more. I
yeah.
remember seeing Ready Player One. I was kind of like, I don't. Oh, like I remember this scene. I don't remember being this scared of it. That's disgusting. That's like so weird. I just want to use this notebook. I love using this notebook. I don't get to write shit very often, and it's like my favorite thing to do.
It's upstairs right now, but I have this little like pocket notebook. That's my favorite thing. I feel like Adam Driver and Patterson, whenever he's like taking notes. That's what I feel like when I'm in that. It has like a little bird, like a feather on the cover. Oh, it's great.
That sounds really nice. This is just a. I think it's 70-page college rule. I want a nice like field notes thing. Fig Newton. Do you think they'd sponsor us?
Big bar?
I think so. Nothing more delicious than a what bakery was that? Did I say?
Nature's Bakery.
Nature's Bakery Fig Bar, along with your Spider-Man Whopper that you can get at your local Burger King right now. Don't wear the crowns. Um, yeah, advertising is going great. Also use code. Oh shit, I can't mention anything from what we just talked about. Never mind.
Use
Use code Passion of the Christ 2 Resurrection for 20% off at BetterHelp. Uh, are we missing anything?
um,
Squarespace. Squarespace is next week.
yeah, actually.
We're gonna lose so many ads from this bit. I feel like if like we suddenly blow up and we get advertising, they're like, why are they fucking around like that? And then we
Yep.
just any chance out the window.
Nope. We'll get that. No, trust me, trust me. We're gonna get some kind of brand deal, some kind of sponsorship. We're gonna have to wear like the same shirt every episode.
Yeah.
It's gonna be horrible.
Speaking of racist ghosts, um, the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
Uh,
The Eddie Murphy one?
the original Eddie Murphy one. I wanted to throw in a fun one because like I was thinking Ghostbusters, but actually no, let me switch that. How do you feel about ghost stories, ghost movies that aren't horror?
I'm chill with it. As
Things
long
like
as they're good.
I, I think we should do that more often. Desensationalize and take things that are horror and not make them horror per se.
Mhm.
Um, because something I rewatched Ghostbusters before the new one came out, and something I kept thinking is like, this is a wonderful action movie. And it's an amazing comedy,
Yeah.
and I don't think there's anything else that does something like this
Hmm.
per se. Maybe Men in Black, but also I don't feel like every alien movie is necessarily horror because you have like E.T.'s not horror.
Right.
Um, the Avengers not horror, and there's a wormhole into space with a bunch of aliens coming out of it. But I like the idea of doing that with the genre where you take something that's inherently like that inherently belongs to one genre, and then you're kind of like, no.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting, and the fact that like there are jump scares, but none of it's scary. It's meant for a laugh almost.
Yeah.
Like it hits it the way that it's supposed to.
Almost like Malignant turns a slasher, like a horror slasher psychological thriller into an action movie by the end of the film is really cool.
It does that, yeah. It does that really well too. That
Because
movie doesn't get enough love, I don't think.
I love Malignant. Turned around on it. I hated it when I first watched it. And then I revisited and I was like, this movie's got the sauce, man. This is pretty good.
I
Can on goated.
I want now that like the movies are like back. I wonder if things were like released now, if they would have done better. Because considering how many people saw Night Swim in January, I feel like if you did put like a Malignant in theaters in January, I feel like you would get a lot of people going to see that and a lot more praise for it and a lot of people like more
Horror
recognition.
horror always makes some kind of bank, and that's why studios bankroll them like crazy. It just the thing is they have a big plateau that if it's not good, people aren't gonna come back.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hearing about The Strangers is that I don't know what this whole thing with The Strangers is though, because the original wasn't even that good. The original's
No.
okay at best. It's fun and it has good scares and it has a great cast. It had some kind of cultural impact, and then they did a shitty sequel that was, I think, straight to video. And
No,
then,
it was theaters, but it was like way too late.
yeah, when was it? Was it like 2016?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It might have even been 18.
I don't even remember. I just remember the poster. It looked terrible. And then now this one, and I thought this was a reboot.
Is it not?
No, it's a prequel.
We don't need that.
We just don't
We
need.
don't need a three movie prequel.
But give me another, whether it's Malignant 2 or another original batshit idea like it, give me that. I will take that.
Here's the other thing. Something that worked really well when I watched The Strangers and I was like 10 years old. Whenever I stole the DVD from my brother and I checked it out, they're not in the movie
Hmm.
like enough.
Yeah.
The first 50 minutes, like you see them in shadows. You see them in the back, and I think that's kind of what makes any horror movie for me is like the tension and the like, kind of like the Godzilla way of thinking of things, where it's like it's more tense and scary when you can't see the full monster. Um, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that with their movies. You can't keep that consistently scary like that. Not to mention, I remember these were greenlit with the pretense of we're going to show you the origins of the strangers and we're going to dive into their backstory. That is how you make them less scary.
Exactly.
That is how you humanize them. That is how you take away anything that is possibly gonna make your movie memorable for the thing, because it's a horror movie. People don't want to remember it for how funny it is. People don't remember for how like action packed it was. People want to remember it for how scared they were.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to be able to.
No. I
They already
feel
aren't.
like You're Next. I love You're Next,
Yeah.
but you know, there's a point in that movie where it stops being scary, and that's fine. It doesn't need to be scary anymore because now the killers have faces. The story starts developing, the twist starts becoming more apparent. I like that about that movie because it needs to be scary in the first half. It needs to be uncertain, but then it needs to go balls to the wall with the kills, the violence, the action.
Yeah.
Because now you want to see revenge. Now you want to see the retribution where your protagonist comes out on top. That's what you need. Kind of
You
like
want to see it wrap. You want to see it wrap up well as a story.
right. And that's what Halloween, the original one does so well is it manages to do that while still being scary in the end. The finale of that film is still shocking and scary and
Yeah.
maintains that scare factor, even though Michael is in full moonlight and I mean, you basically see Michael's face in the film. So that's really cool because there's still that level of uncertainty because of how well portrayed Michael Myers is. And
They still hide him very well throughout things, even to the point where when the finale plays, it's Halloween too. I'm gonna spoil it, but even when the finale plays out and he gets shot, he falls off the balcony and he just disappears.
yeah,
That's why he is like the ghost,
right.
basically. He They keep that element of like how was he able to do that? Or also like the final kind of fight with Laurie, it's like where is he?
Yeah. That's
You
really cool to me.
you know slightly, but you don't know enough.
And I think that's what with the strangers you just lose that charm and you lose that elusiveness and I just feel like we don't need that. No one really wants that. I will say though, this whole talk about ghost stories reminds me of probably my favorite ghost story, and it's not even a movie, but it's The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes,
I
that
think
is
that is the
probably.
greatest ghost story ever.
I remember being very when they did the TV show being very like hesitant about it because to me it looked like something like Oculus or like
Yes.
one of those movies where it was like just like
Which
all
is
right, we're
funny
gonna
because it's the same director.
yeah, Mike Flanagan.
Yeah,
Who, by the way, if anybody needs anything scary made, Mike Flanagan.
100%.
Have we talked about Doctor Sleep yet?
I think maybe a bit. I think Doctor Sleep is unironically. Ooh, I'm gonna get cooked for this take, man. I'm
I
gonna
know
get
what you're gonna. I know what you're gonna say.
okay. I'm gonna rephrase it. I think it's more entertaining than The Shining.
I think it's closer to the vision of the book
Yes,
in a way that retroactively makes it a better adaptation now too.
I think The Shining is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah,
In the sense of its historic value, I don't think that movie's scary. I was scared by that movie once, and I was 14. It lost its scare factor. It lost its mystery. I have seen that movie way too many times to even appreciate it anymore, and I think I take it for granted because it is great. It is excellent. It's just kind of, yeah, it's just kind of there for me.
I also think I've seen it dissected too many times and know too much
Mhm.
about the behind the scenes to really maybe appreciate it as somebody that watches it right now for the first time.
It's obnoxious.
Have you ever seen the documentary The Room 237?
Yeah, I hated that.
Yeah.
It just showed. I mean, it was enjoyable to watch all these crazy theories, but I just hated how much it told me about the mystery of that movie.
I want, I guess too, like in a way, like that's on us.
True,
We
yeah.
we shouldn't have looked into it that much, but at the same time, like it's a bit of a bummer that it can't stand still, knowing all these things, and you can't roll it. Like it should, you should know these things and then be able to go back and appreciate it more.
Mhm.
I think the last time I was ever scared of it was I was having a panic attack during a thunderstorm. Not because of the thunderstorm, but I was just having one, and I was like, all right, I need to calm down, so I'm gonna turn on a movie. And for some reason, I picked that. I was like, never mind. That was a horrible choice.
That's
Like
yeah, that's not great.
the anxiety of what was going on, the weather outside, and then seeing uh, a man in a dog costume on his knees for a bellhop was too much for me to handle in one like 3 hour period.
No, Doctor Sleep is really good. I think it has a lot going for it. Bit too long. I watched the extended cut, which I really enjoyed. It is a bit too long, but I mean, it's Ewan McGregor, it's Mike Flanagan, and it's Mike Flanagan with all of his buddies too. Like his returning cast members is so cool. And he took his Stephen King bucks and made more original stuff. So that's just I respect it.
I do too, especially because he could have just kind of gone on a roll of being like, all right, we're gonna do Christine again.
Yeah.
We're gonna do Pet Cemetery again, which they ended up doing anyway, and that was horrendous. But
Yeah. I respect Mike Flanagan. And I think I haven't seen Bly Manor. I want to watch that, but I did watch Hill House. I need to watch Midnight Mass. I started it, and then we watched House of Usher last October.
yeah,
Excellent. I know that one was pretty divisive. I really liked it.
I still need to watch it.
It's cool. It's really cool. And it's actually fairly scary.
I'm excited. Maybe I'll do like a little horror marathon during the summer. Make it.
Every October we do a horror, like we try to do like a horror marathon with as little time as we have. But growing up in high school, that's when I started delving into horror and really enjoying it. And I remember the first big one I watched was Insidious. That was like our October kickoff. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I love it.
Every October, even now, kind of. I didn't as much this year, but I will. I was too happy. I wanted to watch other things this
Mhm.
October, but every other October, um, I would watch new horror movies or just like old ones to a point where like by November 1st I would be so drained and like mentally feel like so mentally kind of like everything ends in like dying,
Yeah.
like just like so down that like by November 1st I would have to spend the day putting Christmas stuff up and watching the happiest movies that I could think of. Um, and I loved that though because I knew that I'd watch good horror that year
Mhm.
because brought my spirits down to a ridiculous like I understood everything that My Chemical Romance was singing about. Just at the end of every October, you know, having my own Black Parade.
You know what I watched last year for October that I really enjoyed and I didn't think I would was Halloween 3. I actually really dug that movie. That's a crazy movie.
That was on my original list because nobody thinks that's a genuinely good movie, but I will die on the hill that that might be better than any other Halloween sequel.
I think it really should have been continued. They really should have done that kind of anthology thing and not because I mean it's better than 4 5 6 H2O
Yeah.
2018. Like 2018 has redeeming qualities, but man, like that diverging from Michael Myers and making it this really just full on kind of like Goosebumps style narrative
Yeah.
is really cool. And it made me feel sad that we didn't get more of that. That we didn't get more off the wall Halloween movies.
Also, it goes slightly unappreciated because Michael's not in it.
Yeah.
That's really a bummer because that's just like a prime John Carpenter movie too.
Yeah.
I know he didn't direct it.
Yeah. He produced it, but he did the music.
Yeah, and his friend that does a lot of work for it, I can't think of who it is, but he directed it and he did a good job.
Mhm.
Um, I love singing the Silver Shamrock song.
Yes.
I will catch myself doing that like in the middle of July if it's just like stuck in my head. Like 8 more days till Halloween. Like it's terrifying. It scares me. I hate it, but I love
When
it so much.
it's the same melody as London Bridge is falling down.
I didn't even think about that actually.
And I saw something where someone was singing London Bridge is falling down, and I was like, Silver Shamrock? Huh?
Yeah.
And the scene where the kid like has the mask on and he dies and all the bugs like crawl out of his face, like I that was pretty scary. Some of the makeup effects were really good in that movie.
They did too good of a job sometimes.
And there was that one where she like tried to take the Silver Shamrock logo off the mask and it like
Shot
shot a
her.
laser. Yeah.
Oh god, oh, no, yeah, the laser. Oh my god.
That was cool.
Yeah.
They were cooking.
Yeah, I Halloween would be a lot more revered. I think that entire series would be a lot more revered. Um, because like people love it obviously, but nobody likes it because it's high quality cinema. I love those movies. I don't love them because they're high quality cinema.
Right.
I
Except for
the
maybe the
first one,
first one. Like the first one I think is the only one that has really true artistic merit
I'd
in
argue
tourism. Two as well. I mean, two
that
definitely has moments.
maybe not as much as the first one, but enough to cement it as like good and
Yeah.
okay.
Two has some really good kills. And like 2018 has a good vision behind it. And David
Yeah,
Gordon Green is a really good director locked behind these shitty horror movies.
yeah. I finally watched Exorcist Believer. I don't know if I might have mentioned it already. I was so disappointed by that.
No, I can't even bring myself to do it.
I like was upset at him. Like I kind of was like, because he was like, oh god, that's another trilogy that they were gonna do. That got such horrible reception that they're just like, maybe we shouldn't.
No, it's sincerely not needed.
No.
It's kind of like when Netflix tried to do that Texas Chainsaw reboot where they bring their original actress back, and it's just I don't know what they were trying to do. They were trying to turn it on its head and make it
Yeah.
like a different kind of Halloween 2018, but it just felt mean-spirited. It felt stupid and just
Yeah.
the first Texas Chainsaw is so special because of the psychological horror element. And
Yeah.
I haven't seen the other sequels or the reboots. I've really only seen the first one, but that
Two is
one,
a very dark comedy.
yeah, I want to watch two. I heard two is really interesting, but the first one is so good, and to me, it's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen because of just the implications of it all, the psychological damage that that movie can do to you, and the way it's made. It's one of the few slashers that has a true altruistic background to it, and there's a true vision behind it. And what they've done with Leatherface in general is just so weird to me. I mean, he's in Mortal Kombat for no reason.
I think the issue is that they dilute a lot of these movies down to something else.
Yeah.
That is why every Friday the 13th is actually funny
Hmm.
after the first one.
Right.
Nobody's taking Freddy Krueger seriously.
You mean
Um,
Nightmare on Elm Street?
what did I say? Friday the 13th?
Yeah.
My bad. I was thinking of Freddy vs. Jason, um, which
That
also
movie
is
is crazy.
that is a pure comedy movie, and
I
that is
love
not.
that movie.
There's lines from that movie that I'll think about where I was like, I don't even think that was cool in 2003. I'm sure people were cringing in the audience.
What was there was the one girl is like making fun of Freddie and she uses a very bad slur and then Freddie like looks up because she says that they're in a pissing contest and she's not afraid of Freddie, and then he looks up and Jason's behind her and he just takes his machete and he does one swipe. She flies like half a mile into a tree.
Yep. Yeah. Freddy was a real villain all along.
No, even Jason was like, "Damn, that's low, man."
Yeah.
But Freddy, I feel like Freddy always kind of has been like that.
A little bit, yeah.
He's been a little, I mean, he's a child molester.
I forgot about that until you just said that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's never been good actually. I don't I was,
That's the whole thing about Freddy that is really interesting, especially in the first movie, is that they paint him as such a villain before he's even a villain in the movie, which is really cool and something you don't really see because Halloween makes it that he is just pure evil, but that he was a really confused child and traumatized. and had a lot of mental damage. Jason, same thing, just had a lot of issues as a child. Freddy was just evil. Freddy was just
Yeah.
bad, dude. And then he died, was burned alive, got what everyone thought he deserved, and then now he's back. That's a really
So,
cool concept.
have you ever heard of Peter Jackson's concept for um the Final Nightmare, I think it was?
No.
He submitted a version of the film where nobody was scared of Freddy anymore, and the concept was going to be Freddy going into hiding.
Hmm.
He was no longer the villain. He was like almost the final girl, and these kids
Right.
were dreaming specifically to come kick his ass, and like they were gonna decide to go get him, and it was gonna be flipped. So now this iconic horror villain was going to be on the run from all these people.
Huh. Well, I mean, isn't it the whole point? Like where you have to once you stop being afraid of him, he kind of loses his power.
Yeah, kind of like the clown from It.
Hmm. You have to
So,
overcome that fear, and that's what Dream Warriors is about, I think.
because something not only is it mean spirited, but I will say like the kills in Halloween 2018 are gruesome, like disturbingly. Like I remember being 18, thinking like nothing can affect me. I've seen like everything at this point, which also like I was a cocky asshole at 18.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember the scene in the bathroom with the teeth.
Hmm.
I got up and left the theater to pee
Yeah.
because I did not know if I could watch that on a screen so big at nighttime.
I was genuinely shocked by that movie. I was 17, and I remember I went to see it with my parents because I mean, we figured it's Halloween. I've seen the original a lot. The original's not that graphic, and they said this new one is very much in line with the original. So we figured, okay, it's probably going to be violent, but not
Yeah,
2013 Evil Dead violent. And it's part of what kind of turned me off from that movie, actually, was how graphic it was, because it didn't feel like it had the same spirit of the Carpenter, and it
yeah,
felt, like I said, very mean-spirited. But at the same time, some of those kills were really impressive.
yeah. Well, I think the thing, to its credit, in a very large way, nothing will ever make me as scared as sitting in that theater and watching it.
Hmm.
On a personal note, just because they got Illinois kind of right, especially like in the
Oh, yeah.
so there we were in October, sitting and watching all of this, about to drive home in a neighborhood that looked identical to the one that we were watching
Yeah.
in the movie. Um, Not to mention, fun story. That day, I went with three friends. That day, the friend that was driving us was on his way back from work in the same road that we were driving on. A man in a trench coat, apparently, fucking a the worst times, the worst times.
This is not a
A man,
coincidence.
my heart's beating very fast. This is going to be a fun episode. It might not.
We gotta like bank this episode for October.
Oh my god. A man in a trench coat. I gotta close it. I don't like. There's a humming sound coming from it that I don't want to finish this. We were nervous about seeing the man in the trench coat, and everything was just like perfect for it.
Mhm.
And there was the all of that added realism too, because I will say the movie like does try to be pretty realistic
Yeah,
for a while. Um, Made it one of the scariest theater experiences I think I've ever had.
really.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Um, which I also learned the hard way because when I watched it at home, I was like, why is this not hitting the way that it did?
Yeah.
I feel so dumb. I didn't have to walk out of the theater because I was too scared. Like
Mhm.
that's ridiculous. Uh, but no, like I will kind of always hold that showing
Yeah.
somehow, especially because my one friend was trying to figure out how to sneak something into the movie theater, so he just took a Baja Blast, I think, or a Mountain Dew Pitch Black, and put it like right here because he it was so noticeable. He was wearing skinny jeans. It was so noticeable, but he was like, "No one's patting me down.
Oh my
No one's
God.
patting me down to go see Halloween." And he was right. Somebody was like, "Do you guys have anything on you?" He's like, No.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, go in.
Wow.
So it was a treat.
I think scariest theater experience. So I don't leave the theater during a horror movie. My only reason is because if I'm worried that I'll come back during a jump scare and I'll trip and fall down. That's my biggest fear is like embarrassing myself in the theater during a horror movie because I'm standing up when the jump scare happens.
All
I
the screaming
gotta
kids laughing.
I gotta lock in, man. I gotta be no drink, barely any popcorn. I'm not doing anything. Saw Immaculate, which ended up not being as scary as I thought it was gonna be,
Yeah.
but I was locked the fuck in and I was like, I'm not going pee. And then there came a point when I realized this is not scary. I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I did, and sure enough, there was no jump scare. But scariest theater experience. I want to say my gut wants to say The Conjuring 2, but I know it's not that because that was more fun. That felt like a roller coaster ride because it was packed theater, sold out, and majority like kids, like 14 to 15-year-old kids that were screaming their heads off during the movie, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I genuinely think it's not that. I was gonna say Jaws in IMAX, but wasn't really scary. Again, that was more fun because I remember being scared by that movie. Now it's like a fun adventure, but there were people in the theater who had not seen it. And particularly the scene where he's chumming the water and that shark pops out, the screams I heard in that theater, it made me so happy because I'm like 40 years, 45 years later, this movie is still hitting. That's
It's
good to
still
know.
effective. Yeah.
No, I think my scariest theater experience was probably Hereditary.
See, I didn't have the same theater experience for Hereditary. There were kids next to us using their jewels. Um, and they were being dumb and blowing it through their shirt, and we were watching it. Like we got distracted.
Mhm.
Admitted we were watching it go up, and we were wondering if it was going to hit the smoke alarm or any sprinklers or anything. We were terrified. Um, it wasn't us either. I'm not saying some kids like no. We were just like we were at 8 a.m. showing,
Oh,
and these two kids were just like sitting there wondering if they could get it done while the movie was going. So every like I'd be focusing on the movie and then be like, they just fucking do it again.
nice.
And then just looking and be like, oh my god, it's not gonna work that way either. And then just like looking back.
Hereditary for me, not only was the movie just freaky and freaked me out, but this guy in front of me ordered a steak. It was one of those AMC dine-ins,
Yeah.
and he ordered a full steak, potatoes, green beans meal. And it was, oh, what scene was it? It was when she's cutting the bird's head off. The employee walks in with his food. And mind
Yeah.
you, I'm like trying to stomach what I'm watching on screen. She's
Yeah.
like cutting the bird's head off, and she walks in with the steak, puts it down. Guy very loudly takes his fork, starts cutting the steak, and he's chewing and he's chewing, and then he stopped eating, and then he would resume eating at the worst parts of the movie, either during like a dialogue scene or like a nasty scene. He would eat, and you could just hear obnoxiously loud chewing, swallowing. And I was like, this guy's a psychopath.
Yeah, I mean he needs to be put on a list.
This guy is
That's
actually
disturbing.
terrifying me right now. How can you just watch this movie and eat a steak normally? I could barely stomach my Diet Coke that was next to me.
Oh
Maybe
my
I'm
god.
just weak, but man, that guy
No,
freaked
no.
me out.
A steak too.
Like it wasn't, you know, a burger or
Yeah.
chip fish
It
and
wasn't
chips.
it wasn't popcorn. It was like meaty, bloody fucking the thing that Hannibal Lecter turns people into.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's fucked up.
It was
No.
it was bad. It was terrible. That was just horrendous. I think another scary experience, probably obviously Joker was pretty uh on
Yeah.
edge, especially because the guy in front of me was laughing at the worst parts of the movie. And he was
Um,
probably just a Reddit bro that was thinking he was really funny and edgy by laughing when weird things would happen. But it's still kind of unsettling. I was it's like, you
It's kind
not
of
do
like
that?
Hero and Cape Fear.
Yeah.
Um, I remember being terrified because someone did. So our we went to Cinemark by us, and the Cinemark was like, "Hey, like, don't dress up.
Hmm.
Like, you'll get cut up." Someone hit a costume, and the entire movie, I was like, if they hit a costume, like, what else did they hide?
Yeah.
Like, did they really need to be dressed up for this that bad? That like, and it just like scared me the whole time. And every time there was a loud noise, I remember being like,
Yeah.
"The fuck is that dude?" It wasn't even a normal Joker costume. It was like the one where like his face is cut off, and he's like,
Oh,
it's like they had the mask on.
oh, that's cringe as fuck, dude. Yeah. That's ugh. That and I heard weird stuff was happening last year at Scream showings when they were doing Scream 6.
Yeah,
People
I
were
didn't want to
dressing up.
go.
I
I
went,
didn't.
it was a Tuesday morning I went, and it was actually a funny experience because I went with my family, they were visiting me. Theater was basically empty except for this middle-aged woman at the end of our row. And I think we saw it in D box actually, which was really a weird decision. But this woman was ready. She was in her D box seat. She had her giant popcorn, her giant icy, her candy, and she had like a tray set up. She brought her own tray and she had all snacks. And she would sit forward like this. And then it was the ladder scene. The scene where they put the ladder
Ooh,
between the two buildings and they're crawling
yeah.
across. And like I'm invested in the movie. This woman is locked the fuck in. And she's like, oh my God. Oh my God. She's like moving around like this, like with the movie. And she
Shit just kind
was
of jiggling and bumping every time the D box seats go off.
see the popcorn movie. And she was like so loud. She was like, oh my God. And it was so I couldn't even be mad because it was so funny. And I was like, this woman was ready for this. She has been waiting for this all week. A Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock. She's locked in. She's gonna remember this for the rest of her year. This is gonna be great, great memories for her. And I was
Yeah,
just enjoying. I didn't even watch the movie sometimes. I would watch her because it was more entertaining to see her reaction to whatever was happening. It was really funny.
I mean, good on her. Firstly, like, live your life like that. I wish I could be like her. Like
Same.
that would be incredible. Um, see, I didn't. My experience was just that I remember I waited a while, and my friend, um, I wanted to see this with. She was like, she's like, when are we going to see it? And I was like, uh-huh. And then so I was just like subliminally sending her TikTok. She's not scared of anything, unfortunately. So like I was subliminally sending her TikToks of like, look, somebody dressed up as Ghostface at AMC. There's Ghostface outside of this Cinemark. And I was just kind of like, wow, crazy. Like, and nobody knew this was going to happen. Like, terrifying. And some of them were getting like too close for comfort. And then I remember getting a text. It was just like, we're going. Stop being unreasonable. Um, and then we went. It was me, her, and her boyfriend. Um, and like the car ride there, I thought it was gonna be like nice, reassuring. She just scared me and her boyfriend into like wanting to turn around. She's like, God, I hope somebody dresses up as Ghostface. I hope they walk in and they stare directly at you, Sean. And I'm like, you suck so much. So it definitely added something to the movie. I think I calmed down a little bit once we got there and like nobody was
Yeah.
in the costume with a butcher knife or anything like that. Uh, but that was definitely, I think, had I been a little more nervous, it would have rivaled the
Yeah.
Halloween. Um,
Well, I read something that I forget where, but someone got hospitalized because they walked into the theater with a backpack. They pulled out a ghost face mask and a costume, and as they were reaching into their bag to pull out something else, this
yeah,
guy just full on just football tackled him. He jumped out of his seat, tackled him to the ground,
yeah,
and severely injured him. but because everyone thought he was gonna pull out a gun or something or a knife or like and start hurting people, and it was a prop knife, I think, in the bag, and
Yeah.
so he was gonna play a prank. But like, I mean, you don't fuck with that, man.
I think people also need to understand the real world implications of this. Like there's some, especially with the internet now, there's some really, to put it bluntly, fucked up people.
Yeah.
And something that scared me a lot about the first Scream was that I didn't watch that until it came to Paramount Plus, I'm pretty sure. And I watched it with my friend, and we weren't scared until the movie ended. And he looked at me and he said, "This could happen." And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "How many disgruntled, delusional teenagers did we know when we went to high school that did things without thinking
Mhm.
that could have hurt someone horribly?" And I was like, "Too many,
Yeah.
too many." And if the wrong if the wrong people see a movie like Scream or Halloween or something like that, and they empathize and see themselves a little too much in the character, it's the same thing as Joker, where it's kind of like that one was scary because we've had that happen before. We don't know what else could happen. Like someone dressing up as Furiosa this weekend, not scary.
Yeah.
Her plan is to not intentionally harm people anonymously in gruesome ways. Um, it's not like I don't personally think it's that funny. I think it causes a lot of mass panic because like nobody knows. We
Yeah.
also I don't want to I might stop this here because I don't want to take it down a darker route because I feel like we have like a little bit of levity after we start off with like
Honestly, like I get real. Speak your truth, King.
everything that has to do with like shootings. It's a little too terrifying to think that somebody could
Yeah.
be in that mindset, but be a movie fan, be a horror movie fan, and then go, what a way to go out.
Yeah.
You've dressed like Spider-Man. I've dressed like Spider-Man. We would love to be able to do what he could do. We can't.
Yeah.
Someone with a knife could do what Ghostface does. Someone with a gun could do what Ghostface does. Somebody with any weapon could do what Michael Myers does.
Yeah.
That's slightly terrifying.
To me, I think, and it's been because I remember when when Aurora happened, obviously I was a big Batman fan. I hadn't seen The Dark Knight in the theaters, so we were really excited to see The Dark Knight Rises. And I remember when that happened,
Just closed itself and knew it wasn't the right time.
the
Sorry.
ghost said, "You know what? Kino Cafe is getting serious for a minute. I gotta let him lock in."
Talking about
Um,
Batman, real world issues.
yeah, so I remember we were really excited to see The Dark Knight Rises, and that news broke out. I didn't hear about it. I remember my mom and dad like sat me and my brother down and told us about it, that
Yeah.
it happened and that we weren't gonna go see it for a while. Either we weren't gonna see it at all, or we weren't gonna see it for a while. And I
Yeah.
remember being completely okay with that. Like, I remember not being disappointed in the slightest that we weren't going to see that movie. And then everything kind of settled down. And I remember one Sunday, my dad told us, well, it had been out of theaters. And then they brought it back to theaters because it was doing really well. And that was the year that they did that with the Avengers and stuff.
Yeah.
And
The
basically, my dad said, I think we're going to go see it. I think things settle down. And also, we don't live in a very well populated area. We live in my county where the theaters are. It's not a chain theater. Um, so we went and we saw it, and we were pretty much alone in the theater. We enjoyed it, but I remember every single time looking like every 10 minutes looking at the exits. I remember being very nervous. And obviously I've tamed down about that nervousness, but your brain always goes there. Your brain always thinks like that terrible, terrible what if. I saw a TikTok last December about a screening of Poor Things that was sold out completely.
Yeah.
and someone took a pictures inside the theater basically after everyone fled because
Oh yeah.
they heard a fight going on outside, like a fist fight,
Yeah.
and they weren't sure what was going on, but everyone thought someone was going to come in and start hurting everybody. So
Yeah.
literally the entire theater evacuated, and there was these pictures like kind of dystopian a little bit. And I
The
remember,
movie was still playing,
yeah,
wasn't
the
it?
movie was still playing. It was like it wasn't even halfway through.
Yeah. So I feel like it's unfortunately something that's always there and kind of looming. I had like a cold and I thought I'd gotten over it and I went to go see I saw the TV Glow with my friend Friday night. I ended up telling him like, "Hey, I gotta go," because I kept getting up to go to the bathroom because I was sick and I was, and at a certain point, like I could see the people that were sitting next to us were like eyeing me down. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like I know that feeling. Like somebody walked into my showing of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning with the backpack, and I couldn't like not look at them every so often, kind of like see what was going on. It's unfortunately, speaking of which, I'm going to retry to see. I saw the TV Glow, so this is going to be a fun thing to think about while I'm sitting there trying to take that in. But it's unfortunately a very like real thing and a really like shitty thing to have to like think about. Um, and I think it was definitely Aurora, especially because of how much they highlighted everything. I remember, like you had said, like completely being okay with not going to see it, but I remember just being like so dumbfounded that something like that would happen that I watched the news continuously and like tried to make sense of it.
Mhm.
Um, I don't even think I saw it until maybe it's Victory Lap when it came back. And it's just something where it's like because of the state of like where the world is at and where the United States is at, it's unfortunately something where it's like it pops into my head sometimes even when it doesn't need to.
Yeah.
So like I didn't see Halloween Kills or Ends in theaters because of that fear that I had with something like something like Scream, where
Yeah.
it's like I heard one person was going dressed as Michael Myers to one showing, and I was like, I don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
We don't know. Like speaking of Mad Max, actually, I'm pretty sure Fury Road somebody brought an axe in. They smuggled an axe in, and like this one, thankfully, like I'm pretty sure like somebody tackled them immediately, took it out of their hands. Uh,
It's like at that point, like, what are you thinking, man? Like, why?
yeah, like
What are you gonna do? Ugh.
chop someone up apparently was his goal. Um, I don't know. It's a very dark thing, but it's unfortunately a very real thing, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to like be at a place where I'm comfortably just like nothing can happen. Nothing
No,
is gonna
never.
happen. We're all solid.
I'm always unfortunately thinking that way. And it really is unfortunate because it at some point it does kind of sap the enjoyment out of it. I mean, I went to see Megan last year and basically an empty theater, and we had bought our seats. We picked our seats to buy, and we walk in and this couple is sitting in our seats. And I basically just told them nicely, like, "Oh, we bought those seats. Would you mind moving?" And the guy, the way he like looked at me, the way he talked to me was in such a way that I was worried like he was gonna follow me out after the theater and beat me up or something. Like it
Yeah,
felt like almost like road rage, when someone is just so caught up in that fury of I want to hurt you. Fortunately, he was just a wimp and he was trying to impress his date, and she was very apologetic and she was trying to smooth things over. But I had to think that way, there was a fight in the theater when I saw Bullet Train, and this woman threw popcorn and soda on another woman, and it was just unsettling. I went to see Babylon. This guy walked in with a massive backpack. Turned
yeah,
out it was all of his Nintendo Switch gear because he started playing the Nintendo Switch in the theater. I was like, dude, are you kidding me? But he walks in and sits right in front of me, and I'm like, what the fuck do you have in there, man?
yeah.
Why? I had to go into the theater with a backpack once because I came right after class and I felt so bad. I felt at some point I think I didn't hide it, but I just like put it to the side and then I like took a book out explicitly to
Yeah.
like show that nothing was in there, you know?
But no, there's I have like a ton of horror stories of just like being unsettled by that fact and like thinking like, is this when is it gonna happen? Like even did I tell you about Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yeah.
And that man that just got up in dead silence and he goes, "You're shut the fuck up, you're ruining the sound design." Um and just like not wanting to walk out. Like it was just so unhinged and it was such a blind rage that I was just kind of like at first I was like, "Oh, like fuck you." Like I'm gonna say something and I was like, I don't know if that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
You're like, it's
That's
just never worth it at that point. Yeah. I don't know. It is an unsettling fact, but unfortunately one we have to live with. And obviously we do our best to stay safe in every scenario, but it's just something that, I will live, eat, breathe movies. But obviously, if something feels unsafe at any point, I'll never sacrifice my own well-being for that. Um, Especially like I've been more worried lately about like fights, especially at more crowded showings. Like I intentionally avoided seeing FNAF on opening weekend because of the stuff I was hearing of people getting in fights and just kind of rowdy crowds in general.
yeah.
Um, I actually kind of avoid discount days too because that's usually when high school students go and it can just be wrong place, wrong time. And the biggest screen I can go to is a Regal in a town, Santa Maria, which is about an hour and a half away, which is it's not a terrible area. It's a nice town, but it has its areas that you want to avoid.
Yeah.
Um, the theater itself, though, can attract some rowdy crowds, and I was worried when we saw Amazing Spider-Man 2 because it was a sold-out screening, and it's a $5 ticket, and it's a lot of students have been going. Fortunately, it was chill. People were just kind of loud. Um, but I just always think about that, like, anyone can buy a $5 ticket and just ruin everyone's experience, whether it's being obnoxious or picking a fight with somebody. My dad got cornered in the bathroom of that same theater. We saw Shrek 2 and I'm holding the popcorn. My dad goes in the bathroom and he comes out and he has this look on his face. I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, this guy came in and he was cornering me because he thought I was gonna walk in on his daughter in because this guy brought his like toddler daughter into the bathroom and she was in one stall and my dad was trying to go into another stall. And so the guy was like, oh, you checking out my daughter? You trying to check out my daughter? And so my dad just had to leave. And like the whole time we left, we were like looking over our shoulder because I'm like, is this guy is in a bad, I heard him earlier in the theater. He was in a bad mood. And
Yeah.
like all it takes is just he can pick the fight with one guy and it can be bad. So yeah, it's weird. But you know what? Maybe the ghost stories were the friends we made along the way.
I truly believe that they were. And I think my takeaways from this episode personally were people scare me.
Hmm.
I picked this activity to avoid people.
Hmm.
Um and it's interesting how much the world is impacting film right now.
Yeah.
Because unlike what Jerry Seinfeld said, I think it's very alive in a way, but it's also alive in a way that I think is slightly unprecedented in social nature, where I feel like it's not used for what it used to be. It's not necessarily escapism. There's enough to worry about while you're sitting there watching it.
Yeah.
Um, I've never seen anything like a fight, but I've seen like concerning things. I remember. Have you ever just been stared
Yes.
at a theater, and
Yes.
you're sitting there and you're kind of like, look, like why look at me?
Yeah.
I remember going to see this is a random story to not to drag this on, but I remember going to see Suicide Squad and there was a guy in pajama pants and he kept tugging at like his hip and he kept staring at me. And I was like 16 at the time. And I was like, no. And I remember my brother I went with my brother and my sister-in-law, and I remember telling them, I was like, this guy's like, he's eyeing me down. I was already nervous because it was pre-Joker, Joker fear of seeing something like that in
Yeah.
theaters. And my brother's like, just go like, if he comes close, just like tell him to stop. And I was like, no, because I don't know what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
That like, if someone's robbing a bank and just like stop, does that get them to stop
Yeah.
robbing the bank?
Hey
Like
man.
if he's gonna do something,
Yeah.
whether it's like malicious or even just like be like, hey, your fly was down for the whole movie. We could see your like everything. I'd be like, oh, sorry, thank you. I thought you were staring at me for like if he's gonna do anything,
Yeah.
he's gonna do it. And thankfully he didn't, but it scared the shit out of me.
Well, thank you for tuning in to a very serious and grounded episode of the Kino Cafe. Probably
Yeah.
our darkest episode yet, but probably a necessary one. We've been in a funk lately, and I think this is a good start to kind of purge that. So hopefully we can be a little more lighthearted going forward. And I hope you enjoyed listening to us yap about current affairs.
I don't really have much to add, actually. Thank you for listening through this whole one because this one was dark and took some interesting turns, and we didn't really cover ghost movies that.
No, we just talked about our own fears.
Let's reiterate them to keep it on movies for a second.
Yeah.
By the way, getting personal though, we just like talked about all of our anxieties to whoever's going to listen, so I hope they appreciate that. Uh, Poltergeist, The Others, Stir of Echoes, Ghostbusters.
Insidious.
Forgetting Insidious, The Conjuring, Malignant,
Haunting of Hill House.
Haunting of Hill House, Fall of the House of Usher, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Go watch all of these. Maybe not in the theater after listening to this, but go watch them wherever you can find them. Um, and don't support Jerry Seinfeld in any way, shape, or form.
No, never.
That should be and be vigilant and not stupid. And don't play pranks at movie theaters. Yeah, that's
I think
yeah,
I think that just summarized the entire episode in about
that covers I think that should cover everything. We'll be happier next week, I think.
yeah, I think we'll be fine. And the real
We'll
takeaway, if you want to watch a real scary movie, watch the Pop Tart movie.